Hello, students of American literature. It's none other than Professor Berninger, broadcasting to you from my living room in front of the lovely portrait of my past dachshund, Barley, and of course my current cat, Simon. And we've chosen this spot because of the poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Yes, of course, it is a long poem, like a dachshund in being very long, but that's the dachshund is not, well, with all due respect, Bar, not relevant here, but the cat certainly is. The cat imagery throughout the poem is very potent. T.S. Eliot wrote quite a bit about cats. He wrote a lot of poems about cats, which were actually turned into a Broadway musical called Cats. Which was huge, and then it was recently made into a movie which was not nearly as huge, except by the bad things that a lot of critics said about it. Okay, so T.S. Eliot, he is what we would call a breakthrough poet. Quick review of poetry in American literature. We have the early Longfellow, Lydia Howard Huntley Sigourney, Phyllis Wheatley before that, and they're writing, sort of the classic poem. You look up poem in a dictionary and you could give any of their poems as an example of a poem. And then Walt Whitman breaks into free verse. Meanwhile, Emily Dickinson is in her bedroom in Amherst writing these very traditional, but not traditional, very modern, a little askew traditional poems. And then Robert Frost kind of brings it back around to being a little bit of very traditional in a lot of ways, but also very modern in a lot of ways. But he kind of brings it back to sort of a traditional poetry feel with differences. And then T.S. Eliot kind of blows that all up again. And, one could say that this sort of modern, and this is the word for this, is modern, is a result of World War I, which blew everything up. We talked about that with ragtime, and it made people rethink humanity because of the horrific things that people did to each other with machines during that most horrid war. Okay, so the love song, that sounds nice, doesn't it? Oh, a love song. Thank you, Professor Berninger, for putting a love song in. Of J. Alfred Prufrock. Now, those of you out there who might be setting up your online dating profiles and you want to maybe use a name that's, a made-up name, a pen name, just to not reveal your own name, I'd keep away from J. Alfred Prufrock. With all respect to anyone named J. Alfred or Prufrock, it's not exactly a sexy name, right? The love song of Brad Pitt. Now, there you're getting somewhere, right? The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. And then we have this epigraph in Italian, which is from Dante's Inferno. And here's the post-it note, Dante's Inferno. It's about a character who is led down through certain circles of hell. And this poem is sort of playing with that, without question playing with it, as Prufrock moves through certain circles of hell at this sort of social engagement as he's trying to, well, we'll talk more about what he's trying to do in a minute. So I will forego the Italian and read you the epigraph in English, and we're going to work our way through the poem. No rush here, people, no rush. If I thought my reply would be to one who would ever return to the world, this flame would stay without further movement. But since none has ever returned alive from this depth, if what I hear is true, I answer you without fear of infamy. Okay, not really an invitation you want to go on, right? Okay, come along with me, since, I wouldn't take you if anyone ever returned from where we're going. So, when you're done with this poem, you'll never be the same again. Once you go for a walk and see J. Alfred Prufrock, you will never return to the place you were before. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky. Okay, that's pretty nice. That sounds a little love-songy, right? Let's go, you and I, the evening is spread out against the sky. That's nice. like a patient etherized upon a table. Ether is a drug that was used for an anesthetic for many years. And one of the more famous Curious George books, well, actually it's not that famous, but it was always one of my favorites, was when Curious George broke into ether and got really completely stoned on it. So we have these two opening lines: let's go, you and I, come along, evening, and then like a patient etherized upon a table, half asleep, sort of drugged, ready to be operated on, opened up. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. So behind the bar in old restaurants, you'd have a lot of sawdust because the sawdust was there to insulate the ice and to absorb water on the floor. Sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent. Oh, keep out of this neighborhood. Not that it's that bad. It's not like you're going to get stabbed, but cheap hotels, streets that follow like a tedious argument. A tedious argument is not even an argument that's stupid or interesting or good. A tedious argument is just like, oh, that's a tedious job, right? Washing windows is a tedious job, just repetitive, without really getting anywhere. Of insidious intent. Insidious means working or spreading harmfully in a subtle or stealthy manner. So insidious is something that gets in you that's bad. COVID-19 is insidious, right? People catch it. They may or may not show symptoms. Meanwhile, they're spreading it. Right? That's pretty insidious. It's working or spreading harmfully in a subtle, stealthy manner. To lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go make our visit. All right, so there's a big question coming. Now my attention is held. In the room, women come and go talking of Michelangelo. All right, so Michelangelo, yes, one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that's not, they hadn't been invented yet. Michelangelo is a very famous, if not the most famous Renaissance painter. He sculpted the famous statue of David and also painted the Sistine, ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, among other artworks. And he's considered a genius of art, right? So these women coming and going, talking of Michelangelo, they're trying to sound sophisticated by talking about a Renaissance artist, maybe a little pretentious. Maybe this is a little intimidating that they're talking about art. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes. The yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes licked its tongue into the corners of the evening. Yellow smoke. Coal smoke. They're in a city. A lot of coal is being burned for heat. Lingered upon the pools that stand in drains. Stagnant water, right? Life. If water almost always symbolizes life in literature, water that is standing in a drain is stagnant, not moving. It's life not moving. It's probably got trash in it as well. Let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys. Slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. So he's catifying, personifying, anthropomorphizing the smoke. The smoke is, he's describing the smoke in cat, like it's a cat sort of swirling around. And indeed there will be time, no hurry, no hurry. Indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me. Of course, this is a reference to Ecclesiastes, later made into a famous song, right? To every season turn. That's much late after this poem, but a time for this. So this is a reference to the biblical passage, Ecclesiastes. This poem is dripping with allusions An allusion is a reference to another famous person, work of art, literature, something outside that brings in a lot of meaning. Time for you, time for me, and time for 100 indecisions. Not even 100 decisions, 100 indecisions. Oh. This is stagnant water. This is smoke that's not getting anywhere. It's just swirling. This is 1,000 in 100 indecisions. 100. Oh. And for 100 visions. Oh, that's good. Visions, visions, good. Yes, visions. And revisions. Right? That's just redoing the same vision. In the room, the women come and go talking of Michelangelo. And indeed, there will be time. I wonder, do I dare and do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. Hey, now it's getting personal. So yes, this is someone who cannot, Prufrock, our buddy Prufrock, he cannot move forward. He takes a step forward, right? Do I dare, take term, descend the stair with a bald spot in my hair? They will say, how his hair is growing thin. Oh, I don't like this poem anymore. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin. Well, how does your coat and your collar move up to your chin? It doesn't. Your chin starts to move down over life to your collar. My necktie rich and modest, but asserted with a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. So poor Prufrock, he imagines all the negative things people are saying about him. But how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? This has got to be big, right? Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute, there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will revive. Prufrock, buddy. Buddy, you got to pick it up. You got to move forward, man. In a minute, there is time for decisions. Ooh, good. And revisions. Oh, now we're just revisioning. Which a minute will reverse. For I have known them all already, known them all, have known the evenings, mornings, afternoons. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. Pretty small, right? A coffee spoon is a very small spoon. And is that how you measure out your life, right? Is that how you measure out your life? Or do you measure out your life with a bucket? Do you measure out your life with an 8-gallon pail? Do you measure out your life with a giant scoop? I don't know, but hopefully you measure your life out. Your life is big enough that you don't measure it with a coffee spoon. I know the voice is dying with a dying fall beneath the music from a further room. So how should I presume? We will continue with J. Alfred Prufrock in a moment.